Sometimes it's nice to build your own fire because then you can change the color. Or you can make cool little effects like this tree. If you like this tutorial, please mash the like button down there and subscribe, and please check out my ebook on procedural textures. The fire you see on the screen is the one we're going to build right now. So the first thing I got here is a plane on which to make my fire texture. And I've got it on render, and I've got my samples turned way down to 10 for the preview. Now, I don't want to diffuse. I want it to be a emission because fire glows. And I'm also going to want some of it to be transparent. So I'm going to add a shader, transparent, boosh. And I also need a mix shader. Mix shader, boom. There we go. So when I add a noise texture, I got 5, and I put him right into the factor, you can see that some of it is transparent and some of it is not. So I'm going to actually want my texture to be a little bit finer, so I put it at scale 10 just then. I don't think I need this real big right here to see what I'm doing, but basically what I'm wanting to do is use three textures to make my fire, and those 3 textures are 2 noise textures and a gradient texture. So I'm going to add the gradient texture right now. And the way I combined those 2 together was with a subtract math converter. So I think that I subtract this value from this value. And cool. So that's getting about where I want it to be. You can see that it's much brighter over here than it is right here. But my gradient texture is too big, too much effect. So I'm going to convert that again with the math. I'm going to multiply by 0.5. 0.25. This is supposed to be subtract. There we go. That's better. So 0.1. Nope. Let's see. Multiply 2. Ah, look at that. So I actually needed it higher. Say 1.1. That is pretty good. And you can see my fire is not actually going the right direction, and that's okay for now. No. What I can do is I can add a mapping node, vector mapping, and change all of, the rotation and all this stuff, which I'm not going to actually do that, but I am going to use this mapping node for something else later. So I'm going to add a input texture coordinate to make sure that this is correct. Later on, what I'm actually going to do is animate the location of the point. So rather than try to mess with this on my gradient texture, I'm really just going to rotate this square around. It's showing -90, so I'll just say 90 negative. Bam. And it's going the exact right way I want it to. So now I've got it's kind of looking fiery. If I want to make it look fiery-er, then I would just turn up the amount of distortion. As you can see, it's a little bit wispy there. Now, in order to get my color right, I'm going to add a color ramp. Under coordinates, color converter, color ramp, bam. And I'm going to run this value through here and run that value into the emission shader. So now you can see down at the bottom here it is a dark, and towards the top there it's a light. So I actually want it to go the other way around. So I'm just going to move these color flags over here. And I am going to add another one. So we're going to start with white in the middle. We'll add another one. We're going to make this one yellow. That's kind of a pukey yellow. Let's just crank up the red here. So now at the bottom, it's white. At a little bit up, it becomes yellow. And then I'll add another one. Oopsie, that was supposed to be on the other side here. And I'm going to change this one to red. This way, as it starts, it's really a bright white. Then it turns into a red. Or it turns into a yellow. I'm going to actually add another to put an actual orange in here. Yeah. That's pretty good. Now, I'm making a solid division here, which looks terrible, but that's fine for now, because what we're actually going to do is add another noise texture to that. Actually, let's duplicate this, and we will add converter math. And that will give me a better look. That's cool. Unfortunately, that's a little bit too much red and stuff, but I can adjust that by moving these flags around. You can see that it's already starting to look better. So now I've got more yellow down here, more white. Let's move the white up a little bit more so I can see it. Oh, come on. Get on there, you. I can't get on the flag. There we go. Bring that up just a bit more. There we go. And you can see that looks pretty good. We can bring this up to 1, multiply by 1.8. There we go, and that makes my flame higher. Okay, that looks nice. This one right here, we probably should be making this so that it begins to be more like smoke, so it's moving more into transparent. So, in order to make this so that it looks different, we'll animate the distortion. So, I'm going to start with, on frame 1 here, I'm going to make this distortion, start at 2, and we'll say we'll end it at 0. Oopsie. Got to add a keyframe to it. We'll end it at 0. This value here has been keyframed now. We'll go back to frame 1 here and change it to say 3. And we'll keyframe this, insert a keyframe there. This way, you can see that it's changing the further I go up on the timeline. But that's not going to be enough animation for it. What I've got to do is make it so that at the bottom here, we'll start this at 0, and sorry, you got to feed this vector into that too. So we'll start that at 0, and we will end it at -10. I believe that that's what I had to do on my other one. Insert. This way, yeah, you can see that it's going up. So we're getting essentially what we want to see here. I also had, so at the beginning here, I've got this one starting at 3 distortion and this one starting at 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this one to 0 and insert a keyframe there. And then at the end here, I'm going to make its distortion go up as we go. So this one's going to go up to 3. This way they'll kind of pass each other. Well, we'll go to 2 because they counteract each other. The color is being controlled by the one, and the color is being controlled by the one, and the transparency is controlled by the other. So this way we get quite a bit of difference here. I probably want to keep some turbulence in, so I think what I'll do is go back to 0. We're going to start with 1. Insert a keyframe here. This one we're actually going to end at 1 because 0 doesn't look really good right here. Got to have some turbulence in it for it to look all fiery. There we go. Insert that keyframe. At the end is 2. So then we're getting kind of a nice that's essentially the crux of this, how I did this. Animating the distortion on the 2 noise textures and animating the X coordinate of the mapping node. That's about all I was going to say about it. Thank you for watching.